Hello there.
Hello everybody and welcome. As we close out 2024, I've been thinking, what have been the best IPOs of the year? That's initial public offering. And typically as long-term investors, we wouldn't really be looking at these as they can be highly volatile, and quite often it's new businesses with unproven business models. But with great risk comes great reward as well, and sometimes they can pay off. And just for fun, we're going to take a look at what the best ones for 2024 have been and potentially invest in one of maybe two or even three. Let's take a look. Welcome to the episode. We'll also be catching up on how our portfolios have done. As always, we'll battle two stocks against each other. I'm the Gentleman Investor. This is Battle 18. Let's invest. As always, we're going to reveal who won last week's battle. We're going to check in on our portfolios and we're going to battle two stocks against each other. Without further delay, let's get underway. We've had the biggest margin of victory so far, and with the most votes ever received, the winner was resoundingly Games Workshop. Right, let's take a look at how our portfolios have done. By way of reminder, it's £25 into three portfolios: the Battle Royale, where you tell me which stocks to invest in, the Benchmark, where we compete against the Battle Royale, and the Income Generator, to make some prize money to pay out every 6 months. Here's how it went last week, and fortunately, after the absolute bloodbath of a week ago, all green this week. And also really nice to see the Income Generator that had been lagging behind is up the highest of all, 0.8%, and in line with the UK market. The other two slightly behind, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Here are the biggest movers and shakers of the week, and fortunately nothing major to write home about in either direction. Black Rifle Coffee up 4.1%, although I think that's a volatile one, so not going to get carried away there. Tate & Lyle down a whopping 3%, but not massive, and that's just the way it goes. Here is the Battle Royale on Simply Wall Street, and in the couple of days it's taken me between putting the previous graph together and running through it with you now, it's fallen 1.1% below the market, which is 0.7%. So not great, but on the upside, Black Rifle Coffee is now up 5.5%, so adding another percentage point. I think it's a volatile one, so not getting too excited. And on the other hand, Tate & Lyle is only down 1.1%, so that's moving in the right direction too. If we have a quick look at the overall performance, it's quite interesting. Tesla still almost 100% up, on the beach 67, Nichols 22, and on the other side of the equation, our biggest losers, Tate & Lyle down 12%, B&M down 12%, and Money down 8.9%, so not too bad overall. We'll definitely take that, and we will just keep on going. Very briefly, our dividend tracker is pretty much identical to what it was last week at £11.26. That is because I managed to forget to do last week's investment, so I will be doing double the investment this week. So apologies for that, but at least you can see that it does make a big difference each time we make these little investments. And the final part of the portfolio updates, this is how we're doing overall, and as I say, I haven't added any more than last week, unfortunately skipped one, although I will be adding double on Monday, but overall looking great. Battle Royale up 11%, Benchmark up 2.86%, not so good on the Income Generator, but better than last week. It's now a percentage down.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Okay, enough of that. Let's take a look at which IPOs we think we should be investing in. So 3 IPOs in particular have caught my eye. One a lot of you will know about, Reddit. For those of you who don't know, Reddit is a website a little bit like Facebook, a little bit like Twitter, maybe a cross between the two, where you go in, you have arguments with each other online, and it's quite amusing for anyone who does have a Reddit profile. According to this, it organizes communities based on specific interests that enable users to engage in conversations. As I say, mainly a social media page that will make its money through advertising. The next one was Rubrik, which is quite an interesting one. I hadn't heard of it till I started researching this. Apparently it provides data security solutions to individuals and businesses. So essentially a tech company that focuses on cybersecurity. And as you'll see, it also serves retail, finance, trade, transportation, energy, industrial, healthcare, and life sciences. So a lot of the sort of core and what you would traditionally think of as defensive entities. So quite an interesting one there. And finally, Raspberry Pi. Those of you who live in the UK might have heard of it and be interested in it, particularly again if you're interested in computers. Basically what they do is they develop very, very small computers, and really cheaply, that you can then do what you want to with them and insert them into bigger devices and use them to run things as you would. So to read off here, just very, very briefly, it develops single board computers and computer modules, and offers computers and microcontrollers, cameras and displays, add-on boards, that sort of thing. So it's very versatile. It's hardware as opposed to the other two, which are more software. But a new startup, lots of potential for things for it to do, and quite an interesting one, and I like it. So a quick run through comparison of the three: Rubrik, Reddit and Raspberry in that order. And if you have a little look at their snowflakes, it's what you might expect to see from recently listed entities, although as I say, they're all at different stages of their company life cycle. Rubrik really starting out, as you can see, not much health or history to speak of, a little bit in the future. But simply Wall Street really think that Reddit's got a bright future. It's got a lovely big spike there. And Raspberry, not quite so much, but a little bit. However, it's got a much more impressive health. But that is not the be-all and end-all. Everything's got to be taken on its own merits. And the fact that Rubrik's got a much smaller snowflake is potentially because of, again, where it is at its life cycle. And in fact, if you have a look at it, it's trading below simply Wall Street's estimate of fair value, and is still expected to grow at 21% per year, revenue, that is. So that is nothing to sneeze at. And on the other hand, Reddit, again, could it be a hype stock? I don't know, but earnings are forecast to grow at a whopping 71%. So that is pretty crazy. That doesn't mean it's going to be good value for money. However, we'll have a look at that in a moment. And finally, Raspberry Pi earnings are forecast to grow at 4.31% per year. And it has grown steadily previously. So let's take a quick look at their values in that case, or what price we're going to pay for them. And with Rubrik, they want a price to sales ratio of 15.8%. Normally you look at the PE ratio, but this is negative because, as you can see here, it's not making money at the moment. It's losing money. It's bringing in 803 million and losing 1.14 billion. If you have a look at this lovely little graph, it illustrates it really well. That's what it's bringing in, and that's what it's going out. Those are your expenses, taking you below the line, which is never good. And then to compare that to something like Reddit, you're paying a huge PE ratio. If you look at that, minus 56 times, which is absolutely crazy, because that graph looks pretty similar, and a 27.2 times price to sales ratio. Finally, compare those two to Raspberry Pi. PE ratio, they like to flip it around to make us do our work and stay honest, 50 times, which lines up with the negative 50, sorry, it doesn't line up. It's the opposite of the minus 56 of Raspberry Pi, and that's because at least it's got some positive earnings, so that is a good thing. But again, is that because it's at a slightly further down its life cycle? Right, let's see if the valuation is any good. Rubrik apparently undervalued by 40.9%, which is a crazy amount, but how much of that is based on a lack of knowledge because the history just isn't there? And to do the same thing to Reddit, apologies, let's go to the valuation. It is 6.8% overvalued apparently, so not a huge amount. You know, you want to build in a margin of safety as well, so if it's overvalued you should be staying away, but these things are not an exact science. And finally, to compare that to Raspberry Pi, 125.1% overvalued apparently. So unless you know something that the rest of the market doesn't have, or you've got a deep specialist knowledge of the company or that industry, that's typically a warning sign to stay away. And so I think for us, we're going to narrow it down immediately to Rubrik and Reddit. Sadly, because I love Raspberry Pi, I love the idea. It's making a lot of people's lives better, getting these little chips into schools and making access to technology a lot easier. But I'm afraid it's goodbye to Raspberry Pi. Let's take a look at the other two. Okay, so let's take a look at and compare their high-level metrics. Looking at them side by side does not help our decision. It doesn't make it any easier whatsoever. If we start by looking at the graphs for the last 3 years, they're very similar. They start pretty flat, as with all IPOs, and then they've both had a little spike recently to their current valuations. As I say, nothing major to separate them. There are different sizes with different market caps, but otherwise they both have a negative PE ratio. You can't draw a lot from that, since neither of them are making money. Average volume, for different size companies, there's not a huge amount in it. Same thing for the revenue. Neither pay a dividend. Both have negative EPSs, so there's not an awful lot you can use this information to differentiate the two. So we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. And so, as with all IPOs, because they're so young and you can't really look at their history, you have to look at the business, what sort of moat they have, where they sit in the marketplace, disruption, all of those sorts of things, and all of that boils down to future growth, and that's how we're going to separate these two today. Looking first at Rubrik, it reckons the future growth. Well, first of all, it's got 2 out of 6, which isn't great. So is this the best category of things to invest in? Maybe not, but here we are. It's got an EPS growth rate estimate of 59%, which is, if that came true, that would be lovely. And the earnings to grow at 35.9%. Compare that to Reddit, which has got 78% and 71%. So quite substantially more. But again, what are they based on? Who knows? Lovely little chart going up for both of them. So again, a little bit speculative. We're going to have to trust these things, but it seems pretty clear based on this which way the stats think we should go and which way I might suggest we go. ... So there you have it. Who do you think we should invest in? I'd love to hear your votes in the comments, but from my perspective, I think the winner should be... Thank you so much for watching another week, everybody. I'd love to wish you a very, very happy new year and a restful break, and I look forward to seeing you next week in 2025.
Goodbye.